That's very interesting information. I
Yeah.
did not
A
know that.
lot of people don't know these evidentiary rules
No,
as well.
they
And they
don't.
just assume, well, I have this. A lot of people come in, I got a binder. You should see what I have. And I'm like, nope, inadmissible, inadmissible, inadmissible. And they get so mad. And I'm like, the courts are not going to let it come in. Our rules of evidence are very, very specific.
And I know this is something that you and I have discussed prior, and I just think it's becoming such a big deal in today's society, and I would really like to talk more about it with you. I think a lot of women or men that are going into a divorce with a narcissist assume that they're going to win every battle, or they're going to be able to prove to the courts that they are divorcing a narcissist and all the abuse. Have we come far enough now for judges to take any type of evidence of a narcissistic ex being involved in the mix seriously enough? Or do they still not take someone being a narcissist into consideration? Is that completely something that is a waste of a fight?
Yes and no. So the term narcissist is constantly thrown around,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll hear everybody wants to diagnose their ex-spouse or their current spouse or their significant other. Oh, I'm with a narcissist, or my spouse is a narcissist. But you have to look at the real definition of a narcissist. Narcissist isn't what you think it is. I
Right.
love this example of it, what I think a true narcissist is. They treat you like crap behind closed doors. They berate you, they harass you, they call you names, they belittle you. They could financially abuse you, they could withhold all this money from you, they could make you feel like you're locked in a cage.
Right.
But if your leaky sink is acting up, they will never fix it.
Mm-hmm.
But if your neighbor across the street sink is acting up,
Or they're like
they're going to
that.
go across the street and it gets done immediately.
Mhm.
That's somebody who has to put on a facade to the neighbors, to anybody who's outside of their household,
Right.
how much of a great person they are. But behind closed doors, they are terrible.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is, again, that these courts are hearing the term narcissist all the time. I think in one respect, it goes in one ear and out the other. They don't like that term. They
Yeah.
don't believe that there's truth to it.
Right.
And a lot of time they don't want to listen to it because they don't believe a lot of the people that come in and claim that that's what they're dealing with.
Right.
You have to have some proof, like really good proof that that's what's happening. And it's called judge blind. And I use that term a lot because a lot of times you will have clients that come in and really jump up and down. And a lot of times it's the women.
Right.
Most women are the ones that claim that they're dating a narcissist
Mm-hmm.
or they're married to a narcissist. And the courts are just going, oh my God, not another one. Somebody else to claim narcissist. Is this real? Should I even be talking about this? And then they'll just ignore it and just say, okay, let's just look at the law. I don't care what's going on right now. We're moving forward. A lot of times it's like if you get a judge who's more relatable to men who like men to be parents, they're going to push more for this father to have joint custody, even if they are diagnosed a narcissist, because they don't believe that that's going to hurt the children. It may be what your relationship was like, and I'm very sorry that happened, but it doesn't hurt the kids, so I don't give a crap.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see that a lot.
Yeah. Um, I think that was all great information in regards to children and the whole divorce situation. I would love to jump to financials. And I think something that I'd love to talk to you about is prenups. Can a good divorce attorney find loopholes in a prenup, or are prenups pretty ironclad?
Oh no, I find loopholes all the time.
Okay.
So I was watching one of your episodes recently about how you thought that prenups were pretty good and they were a good tool to have. And I was like, yeah, they are. But it can also come to bite you in the ass too.
Yes.
So there are some people that I actually find it more with the rich and the famous. You'd be surprised. The more money that somebody has, those are the ones that usually get the prenups.
Yeah.
So they're more inclined to want to protect their assets either
Mhm.
now or in the future. So when you go through these prenups, I've had clients who've put in there, well, if my wife gets fat, then she doesn't get alimony.
Are you serious?
Uh-huh. I've had people put in prenups, if my mother-in-law is too involved, then she doesn't get alimony. Or like things like that, like crazy provisions.
And women or men have signed off on these.
Yes. And
That's
I'm
nuts
like,
to
you're
me.
crazy. So I would never, ever agree to have somebody put that provision in a prenup. I would never even draft it
Right.
because I know that some of those things are not enforceable. Like
Right.
if you decided you were going to sign it because, hey, you love your spouse or soon to be spouse so much that you want to just get married and you want to have this happily ever after, and you decide, I'm not going to have an attorney review it. Like you'd be really stupid to do that because that provision just right there, some judges will enforce it and be like, oh, see, it says that you weren't going to get fat, but you got fat. And I'm like, I can't because I laugh about it. And I know you're laughing too, but it's like some judges will agree that, well, you agreed to it, so it's valid. But for the most part, things like that are not enforceable. They're not something that's going to be, a judge is not going to look at it and be like, oh, I'm not going to give that person alimony because they gained weight.
Right.
But I've had people put in prenups, the craziest things like, oh, if we live outside of New York State, they don't get alimony. If I move to Europe, then I'm only going to have to give them 5% of my net worth. I mean, crazy, crazy things.
That's
The
nuts.
more outlandish these provisions are, the more they're going to be not enforceable.
Okay.
But in most respects, I can find loopholes if it's not consistent with the law. That's where your loopholes are going to come into play.
Okay.
If you and I don't know if you know Jim Sexton, he's another lawyer that I'm a very good friend with and
Yeah,
colleague.
I've seen some of his reels.
And him and I were talking one day and I was talking about a prenup and I said to him, I go, is it something worth doing on your end? Do you tell clients all the time to get a prenup? And he says, yeah, you have two types of prenups. You have one that is either just going to be yours, his, and mine.
Right.
And then you just say whatever I come in with, if it's in my name, it's mine. If I gain it during the marriage and it's in my name, it's mine.
Right.
And if it's something we put both of our names in, then it's ours.
Right.
And that seems to be your standard prenup.
Hmm.
That's what most people do. It's
Yes.
mine, it's yours, and it's ours.
Right.
But if you have somebody who comes in that has all this money and they've already engaged all these assets and they've already acquired all these things, you may want to share them.
Mm.
And that's where you have well, I call it the sympathy prenup. I don't want my spouse to be left with nothing, so I'll be nice and leave something to them. And I may not just want to hoard everything. So I was doing an episode recently of my own social media for the Taylor Swift situation. And
Yes.
I'm excited to see what her prenup is going to look like.
I
Now,
am
I
too.
know that some people, don't understand that, but I'm excited to see what she does with it
Totally.
because you have two celebrities in some respect, but she's worth so much more than Kelsey is.
Hmm.
And I want to see what it's going to be put in there. Is she going to say, "Oh, I'll give you alimony
Right.
if we have like 5 kids"?
Right.
Or am I going to give you alimony because of this reason or this reason? I'm curious to see what they're going to do because I think she's going to not have that standard, what's mine is mine and what's yours is yours. I think it's going to have some twist to it and she's going to give him something. But it's going to be interesting.
She's a strategic one, and she's
She is.
extremely smart. So,
She is.
yeah, I'm actually excited to see because we all know that's going to get leaked
Oh,
somehow,
of
some
course
way.
it is. I was upset that I wasn't got the call to do it. I was
Well,
waiting
hey,
for
you
that
never
one.
know. You never know. Once this drops, they may see you and go, we need to contact Kristen
I
for
know.
a revision."
I know, but usually the ones like that, they'll stick with California law. It's
True.
either you get New York or California. Most of the celebrities come out to either of the big states because our laws are somewhat comparable. But you have most celebrities in New York City, and you have the most over in LA anyway.
Well, an
But
example of a couple like that where they own assets in New York and they own assets in different countries. How does a divorce like that work? If the assets in different countries and states are not fully covered by one prenup, I mean, how does something like that work when there's so many properties in other areas and not just the same state?
so you have to find the state that is your legal residence. So
Okay.
if they're living in California and their driver's license is from California and they can say, look, I live in California for more than a year, then California is the jurisdiction that it's going to get drafted in.
Got it.
You can use California law to say, oh, I have a property in France, I have a property in Mexico, I have a property in New York. And as long as it's all designated as to where it is, it's still going to be governed by that state's law. The
Okay.
problem is when they don't have a legal resident. So if those celebrities they don't have a driver's license in one state or they move to a different state and they still have not lived in the other state for a period of time, now you have to figure out which state has more jurisdiction. Is it
Right.
New York? Is it California? Is it wherever? And that's where it becomes a complicated factor because that's where you find a loophole. Because if it wasn't done during the correct jurisdiction, ding, 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 red flags, now it's not valid. So
That's
again, these are little things that I think of when people start going through them,
yeah.
but your normal layperson wouldn't know what to do with that.
Right. No, not at all. Um,
Yeah.
some of the things that you and I've discussed too off camera are divorce trends.
Mm.
And I remember last time I spoke to you, one of the things that you're seeing and you're telling people to not do it are 20 somethings, Gen Zers, that are moving in together, accumulating assets together, but not getting legally married.
Yep.
So, how does that become messy if one day they split?
Sure. So again, as I was talking to you before, Gen Zers are doing just that. They see, I think, the stigma of marriage, and they
Mhm.
see a lot of maybe their parents have been divorced, or they've got friends who've been young and gotten married and gotten divorced, and they just don't want that commitment. They want this ability to walk away and not have that somebody tied to them, or what I call the ball and chain. So they're buying things together. They're buying cars, they're buying houses, they're shagging up together, and then they have kids together, but they have nothing binding them legally. And so that piece of paper that binds them as a couple to be married is what gives you certain rights, biological rights to your kids, rights to assets. When you don't have that, it makes it very difficult to divide that after the fact. So, as an example, here in New York, if I got together with you and I'm living in an apartment together and we bought that in New York City, it's in both of our names, but we're not married. I now have to go to Supreme Court to divide that asset.
Oh my
And
God.
if you paid the mortgage, even though I never paid the mortgage, I paid all the utilities, but
Right.
you paid the mortgage, guess what? You're going to get more money from that apartment than I'm going to get because you paid more of that balance on the mortgage. I don't get anything. You will get more than I am. So it's not 50-50. And people do not understand that. They think because we bought it together, they're going to automatically get 50-50. The laws when you're not married are very different.
Wow.
Same thing with custody.
Right.
So now people come in there going, oh, well, I've been the sole parent all this time. I should have custody. Even though custody laws seem to be very consistent with both divorce and non divorce cases, it still has a different effect on it.
Right.
So if you're coming in, the fact that you didn't move out or you didn't leave or whatever the case is, the courts are going to look at that too and say, well, ma'am, you weren't married. You didn't have as much stake in that. You could have walked away.
Right.
Why didn't you?
Right.
And I have another situation, like I have an example right now where I represent a couple, a wife, not a wife, but like a woman that they had say they're married, but they're really
Right.
not.
Right.
They cannot move out. She could not move out. And I kept saying to her, don't move out, don't move out, don't move out. And she's like, I can't live like this. She's like, I'm not married to him. That was the reason why we didn't get married. So I could leave. I go, but you were stupid and had kids and not get married. I can't get you out of the house because you can't take the kids. And her whole premise was, we own the house together, but we're not married. So I could take the kids. I'm like,
You
no,
can't.
that still is required where the kids stay in the house. Unless there's physical violence, unless there's a court order, you can't leave. And
Wow.
she stuck it out and stuck it out. And next thing you know, this, what I call the husband, not husband, assaulted her and assaulted the kids. And that's how we got them out.
Mm,
And that is what it took. And it's so sad because I don't want ever to have that person ever have to worry about that. And
no.
it's like, how else can you do it? And the
Right.
problem is in family court here in New York, divorce lets you deal with custody in a divorce case. Whereas if you are still living together but not married, you can't seek custody in family court. So if
Wow.
you are still living together, you can't get custody cases. You can't go to family court and ask for a custody order, and you cannot ask for child support. Only in divorce cases, if you're still living together, can you do that. That's what
How
makes
is the
it
custody
very
figured
difficult.
out then in that scenario?
We try to negotiate it outside of court until we get an order. But when you can't, that's when our laws have not caught up to this generational trend. Whereas all these 20 somethings and soon to be 30-year-olds or young 30-year-olds are not getting married. They're having kids together, and I can't take their kids and divide them in court because the laws don't allow it. If they're still living together, I can't do it. And these just get dragged out and dragged out and dragged out, but our laws have not caught up yet. So the problem is that I don't know how many times I've tried to file petitions just because clients desperately want to get out of the situation and they get dismissed because they're still living together.
Well, and I know that this is, kind of a ridiculous thing, but it is a real thing, is people also accumulate pets together,
Oh,
dogs,
yeah.
which also in turn nowadays, if couples don't have children, those are like their children.
Yeah.
So how is that handled if a couple's not legally married and they accumulate a dog together and they're not agreeing on who the dog moves in with and who the dog stays with?
So again, why New York is a little bit more progressive. New York just passed a law, I want to say about 2 years ago, that says that pets can now be divided as custody. So we
Wow.
actually have a custody statute for pets,
I
and
love
they're like
this.
children.
That's
No one
amazing.
else, I don't think any other state actually has an actual pet custody law like we
No.
have. So it's the exact same kind of standard with the pet that you would use with your kids.
Wow. That's so hilarious, but it's so true. And I know, especially in New York, too, animal dogs are a big thing,
They are.
especially the smaller ones, because a lot
They
of people
are.
live in
They're
brownstones
babies.
and
They're like, they're your little children. You take them everywhere.
they
Like I
are.
have a good friend of mine that does not have kids and that dog is her baby. She
Yep.
has this dog in doggy daycare all day long.
Oh, yeah.
And her and her husband, they talk about who's paying for the doggy daycare. And I'm like, do you know your dog daycare costs more than my kid's aftercare?
It's so true.
The vet bills cost more than the pediatrician
No,
bills.
it's very true.
But they are very dedicated. And because they don't have kids, that's their baby.
Right.
And so I understand it. It's
Mhm.
just the laws, again, why things have to be progressing constantly is that trends are different. People are evolving, lifestyles are evolving, people as humans are evolving,
Right.
and our laws need to start evolving too. But some of them just have not caught up yet.
No, it's very true.
It is.
Um, One thing that I found really interesting and comical, and I know the followers and viewers will, because not a lot of people knew about it. I mean, shoot, I didn't even know about it until I watched some of your reels, is the divorce resort. You and I spoke about this last time. I actually told a lot of my girlfriends about it, and they all said, how do we not know about this? So, for the followers and viewers, can we
Sure.
please tell them what divorce resort is?
So, and I think I was telling you this one time. I want to open up my own divorce resort. It is
Yes.
literally the best idea, in my opinion. It is a giant resort. It's a hotel. It's like an all-inclusive resort where you get to go for a long weekend. You check in on a Friday afternoon and you check out Sunday afternoon. And all weekend long, you are trying to negotiate your divorce. The idea is you should be able to negotiate the entirety of your divorce within one weekend. So you have an attorney on staff, you have psychologists on staff, you have yoga instructors, you have dance instructors. I mean, there are things that you do during your weekend to keep you not stressed, be able to still have your meetings with the attorneys and make sure that you're doing it legally, and to make sure that you are still having this little break for yourself and a mental health cleanse so that you can be in the right frame of mind to want to get divorced quicker. And it can be very expensive. I know here in New York, there's one upstate in Albany. And I've heard that they're looking to do a little bit more here in the Hudson Valley, and they're
Right.
talking about doing one. But it's an all-inclusive thing where you and your spouse stay in separate rooms. You do not have to stay in a room together, and you both check in together and leave together as hopefully a soon-to-be divorced couple.
Wow, that's insane. I mean, when you think about how many years people spend wasting money and time and energy and emotion and mental health and emotional health
Yeah.
and, all the aspects of going through, let's say, a high conflict divorce, I feel like if both parties are agreeable to it, why wouldn't you want to do something like this?
Well, this is where I kind of compare it to this. I mean, if they continuously do them, I may be out of a job. But
Yeah,
in some respect, you're thinking about my retainer as an example. Somebody
right,
would have to pay me $5,000 to do an uncontested divorce just because it takes a lot of time and work and energy, and we're going back and forth, and I can only represent one person.
right.
But you could spend $2,500 for a weekend to go and get an all-inclusive resort vacation, kind of, while you're doing the work to get divorced, and it costs you $2,500. Like to me, it's a no-brainer. You're either going to pay
Totally.
me five or you're going to pay them 2,500.
Yes.
So I think the question is on a business standpoint, is it worth it? Because is it enough money? Whereas a lawyer, you're going to charge more money in the firm. But if they can make it work and they've found a niche to be able to do that, absolutely. I would recommend doing that 100%. I am not in the business and I hate this stigma because everyone assumes, oh my God, lawyers and especially divorce lawyers, all they want is money and it's always about what they can put in their pocket.
Hmm.
I don't want to do that. I tell clients all the time, would you rather pay for my kids to go to college or your kids to go to college?
Right.
Because at the end of the day, I want your kids to be successful. I want your family. I want you to survive.
Yes.
I get paid one way or another. As long as I have a client that I'm working on, I get a paycheck.
Well,
But
and at the end of the day, we would all like to be, having amicable divorces and divorces
yeah,
where both parties agree on doing it through mediation. But unfortunately, that's not everybody's story in reality.
it is. And that's the sad part is that
Yes.
there are certain people that will always have a job. I know I will always have a job.
Hmm.
The problem is that I've been seeing more post COVID. A lot of couples are not willing to negotiate. They don't want to settle. They want to fight. They want their time in the court. They want to be heard. They want to hear, they want somebody to acknowledge their pain or
Right.
what they've gone through. And that's what makes it very expensive. I would prefer to do an out of court divorce and being it uncontested and amicable any day of the week. It makes it simpler. It's a lot less work for me, and it's a lot less stress for everyone involved. You, your kids, your family, anybody. So, of course, it's the easiest way to go. but not every divorce is like that. And that's what makes this area very complicated, is because you're not going to get people that walk in the door every single day that have these easy cookie cutter type of divorces. You're
Right.
going to have the ones that are abused. You're going to have the ones that have money hidden. You're going to have the ones where the kids are, never wanting to be with either parent. I mean, you're going to get those back and forth. It's never one case fits all type of situation.
No, it's very true. What are some of the reasons why you see men versus women getting divorced? Infidelity with men, financials with women. What are some of the main reasons in differences in sexes on why a woman files versus a man?
Nowadays, the biggest trend with women is the single married mom mentality.
Mm,
That is the number one reason you're seeing women come in for a divorce these days. Behind that, for women, it's infidelity by their spouse.
mhm.
For men, they are the cheaters and they are end up, their spouse is usually the one that files for divorce, or they've outgrown their spouse. Or they've decided this isn't what they want and they feel like they're trapped. So they've decided that this isn't for them. But I think with women, and this is why it kind of rings true in some respect, because my relationship with my own husband has always been tough in this fact that women have progressively wanted to be in the workforce, and
Right,
they have decided, well, I need to be in the workforce because now who can afford to only live on one person's salary? That's a big issue.
right,
But you go to the workforce, but you're still required to be home and do the parent teacher conferences and go to the doctor's appointments and make sure you know what size your kids are wearing and do all of these things for your kids, bath time, dinner time, laundry, but your other partner, who's supposed to be your partner, isn't doing it.
right.
And so they are so overwhelmed and stressed that they can't take it anymore. And they're progressively, again, trying to tell their spouse over their relationship, hey, I need help, I need help, I need help. And it's going in one ear and out the other.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, that's why women are coming in saying, I can't do it anymore. I'm raising another child. I'd rather do it single. I
Mhm.
don't have a partner. I want to be able to come back to my old self again. I love my kids, but I'm starting to hate my kids because of my stress and resentment.
Right.
So a lot of that is moving towards the divorce world, which is very sad, because I would want husbands, and in general it's husbands, to understand, if you put a little bit more effort into helping with the workload at home,
Mhm.
then that goes so far. You will see your wife be 20 times more happier. And maybe you won't be blindsided by some divorce that you claim you're blindsided with. And men, I think now I see this mentality from men of, I feel trapped.
Mhm.
I didn't want this. This isn't what I signed up for. I feel restricted. I can't go and hang out with my friends. I didn't get what I wanted at work. I can't go and move anywhere I want because I've got kids. And they did not sign up for this, I guess, ball and chain is the best way I claim. And I know I was saying that earlier, but
Right.
they do call it the ball and chain. And they want to have freedom. And they think that if they can now just get a divorce, they're going to have more freedom to themselves.
So this is probably a question that I'm assuming you get asked often as a divorce attorney, as a top divorce attorney. For me personally, when I filed for divorce, there was a lot of judgment of, you have children, so you have to stay together. I see so many people sticking it out in their marriages because either they don't want to separate assets and it's strictly financial on why they stay together, or they think now that they have children, it's better for the children if they stay together. You're a divorce attorney, not a therapist, but from a legal standpoint, from what you've seen in all the years, what is your opinion on this? Is staying together the answer? Is getting a divorce and doing your best the best choice when you're in a situation that's not healthy for everybody involved?
I think that is a huge issue in most people's minds, that they
Mm-hmm.
will stick it out for their children because it's healthier to be in a two-parent household than it is to be in a single family household. But if you ask, and I've read tons of studies over the years, if you ask children who have been in both relationships where parents should have been divorced and they didn't,
Right.
and then you talk to kids whose parents are divorced and lived a lifestyle when their parents were unhappy together, children that are no longer in that two-parent household because of the hostility and the screaming and the yelling and the unfortunate hate of the two parents
Right.
are better off when their parents are divorced than they are if they stayed together.
Thank you.
And a lot of kids will tell their parents as they've gotten older, I wish you got divorced.
Mm-hmm.
I wish that you didn't stay for me. I wish that you moved. I wish that we left. I wish that you didn't make yourself unhappy because this made it worse for me. I don't know what a healthy relationship is like.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know at 25 how to be with somebody because I don't know what it was like to have a role model because the two of you were always fighting and hitting each other or despising each other. There was no love in that relationship. I
Right.
don't know how to love somebody.
Right.
And you see these trends all the time where parent or children of these parents have they go into the same cycle. They get married and guess what? They're divorced too. There is a stigma that if you have a divorced parent, is that going to be something where you're now going to be divorced in the future because you don't know how to handle that love or that relationship. But I think that again, I'm not a psychologist, but knowing how these parents have said in the past and how the families have transpired and what psychologists have said, it's better to get divorced when your kids are younger so that you can show them a different kind of love and show them what it's like to be in a healthy relationship or to be a solo parent, but know how to handle yourself solo
Right.
than to be in a relationship with somebody you can't stand or that you're constant fighting because the fighting is worse than not.
Mm-hmm.
Your
Kristen
children will be more
Farris.
well-rounded, in my opinion.
I I totally agree with that. You and I have spoken. You know me. I left when my daughter was 12 months old. I
Yeah.
saw the forest through the trees, the light at the end of the tunnel. The counseling didn't work, this and that didn't work. I had to make a choice. And, I always say if a child can have two happy homes, two happy, healthy parents, to me, that's better than
Yeah.
living in one home that is toxic, where they see, like you said, a lack of love. One parent sleeps upstairs, one parent sleeps downstairs. And what I tell people that I know is children are smart, children are very intuitive. They know what's going on. Just
Hmm.
because you guys aren't divorced and you're not separate, but you're living a very unhappy and a very unhappy, unhealthy, abusive marriage, don't think for 1 second your children don't know what's going on.
Model what you give them.
Yes,
So if you are not happy, they're not going to be happy.
right.
If you are miserable because of one thing or another, they're going to be miserable for one thing or another. And they will again model what you preach. The way you act is what they're going to learn from that.
Mm-hmm.
So, in my opinion, I think that this staying for the children mentality shouldn't be there anymore.
Yep.
You should be able to say, I can do it on my own. It's okay. My kids will be okay.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that some parents, and I go back to the women because it is mostly moms who will stay because of their children. They don't like the idea of, I can't live a day without my kids.
Right.
And you know what? I feel for them because I don't think I could do that myself. I don't know how I could do that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it's like to not see my kids every single day. And I feel for them
Mm-hmm.
because that has got to be so hard. It's got to be this, it's got to be terrorizing to your heart to
Yeah.
know that you're not getting to see your kids every day.
Yes.
But you have to remember, do you put yourself first so that you can put your kids first?
Right.
Because if you can't put yourself first, you're not doing you're doing a disservice, I guess, to your own kids in that
Totally.
respect.
Yes. 100%.
Yeah,
Kristen Farris, I enjoy my time with you every single time. I'm so excited that
always.
you were willing to come back and do this interview with me. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you so much. It was so good to see you again.
So good to see you too. And
Thanks.
let me know if Taylor Swift blows up your
Oh, believe
phones.
me, that's going to be all over the place. I'll be all over on that one.
I want to be the first to know about this.